Okay. So again, this meeting will be recorded today. Let me just go ahead. Thank you, guys. Greetings, everyone. Thank you for taking time out of your busy day to join us. My name is Nnakina Xi-Amaru. I am the founder of Aboriginal Ministry of Justice and founding mother of the Xi-Amaru Republic, nation or Indigenous tribal government. Okay. So I put together this presentation. Wait, oh, I don't want to pin myself. Let's put this as the pin. Okay. So I put together this meeting because it seems we hear people talk about rights all the time. But when it comes to melanated people, it's like it goes out the window. Okay. Can someone just confirm that you guys can hear me in the chat? Like, can you guys hear me? Good. Make sure. Okay, cool. Awesome. Okay, good. Okay. So my conclusion is that we are the least educated when it comes to rights. This needs to change and fast, because having rights and not knowing how to advocate and protect them is the same as not having any to begin with. During this presentation, I will cover what are human rights, the role of rights when it comes to Aboriginal people, why knowing your rights isn't enough, and a key way to exercise your rights to create a better future. Okay. So what are human rights? Human rights are rights inherited to all human beings, regardless of race, sex, nationality, ethnicity, language, religion, or any other status. Human rights include the right to life and liberty, freedom from slavery and torture, freedom of opinion and expression, the right to work and education, and many more. Everyone is entitled to these rights without discrimination. Yet, on a daily basis, we witness these rights violations, especially when it comes to melanated people. But I will get into that shortly, okay? The roles of rights when it comes to Aboriginal people. Yes, human rights are universal, but international human rights international human rights law lays down the obligation of governments to act in certain ways or to refrain from certain acts in order to promote and protect human rights and fundamental freedom of individuals or groups. The issue most melanated people have up and down North, Central, South America is they are operating in governments that were established for different groups of people, which occurred during colonization, right? The indigenous governments and cultures that were in place were lost through acts of genocide, as we already know. Let's face it, who would be keeping track of anything when you are under extreme conditions like those? The only desire would be to try to survive another day. Now, the problem is, although people who are no longer being kept in chains, most of them are completely ignorant to who they truly are. Now, this part may seem unfair, but the reality is the people responsible for healing and repairing of the culture are none other than the people who are descendant of the people who experienced genocide, right? Crazy. Being Aboriginal, which is confirmed through the history left on the walls, on ruins, and other places by our ancestors. I am not a debater, but if someone were to try and debate me on this topic, my only argument would be is for them to explain to me how the so-called lost people who created the pyramids that have withstood time simply vanish one day. Yet the popular story told about melanated people history always seems to start at points when they have no recollection of who they are, but are known to be enslaved to build nations for others. And we will leave it at that for now, right? And please, if you guys have questions, I'll give you guys room to ask questions at the end. So I didn't mention that at the beginning, but I'll get you guys back. Okay. So this is a big part of it because, again, you hear people always talking, I know my rights, I know my rights, I know my rights. But the thing about this is knowing your rights is not the same as exercising your rights. Okay. So to answer this, you must understand why government structures are important. Now, we know people who are fed up and should be when it comes to certain systems, but being emotional doesn't solve the issue. We have people who are always talking about, governments are bad, this is an institution, this is this is that. But the reality is none of it is going away anytime soon, whether we like it or not. So we have to come to a conclusion and a solution, which, again, there is one. And I'm going to get to that. Okay. Governments are important when you understand their obligations. The obligations of governments is obligation to respect means that states must refrain from interfering with or certainly the enjoyment of human rights. So before I get into the obligations, if someone can't answer this for me, why do you guys, or anyone who feels like they know an answer, why do you think in today's day and age we see so much human rights violation, especially when it comes to melanated people?
I think that the reason being is, as much as people say, oh, I know my rights, they don't know their rights. They don't know where they stand in regards to the jurisdiction that they're under. They don't understand how that government or that construct was created. So they certainly also don't know how to navigate within it or how to protect themselves or exercise their rights.
Beautiful. That's actually a great answer. And you're right. That's the problem. So now this meeting is all about us just coming to I think that the issue is everyone makes it seem so complicated, but this is why we're going back to the basic understanding, because human rights are not complicated. Indigenous people's rights are not complicated. You just have to learn how it applies to you and the people around you. So this is what we're trying to break down today, okay? So again, you have to understand the obligations of governments. Like I said before, some people, again, people have the freedom to do as they please to a certain extent if they're not causing any harm or injury. So, you have people who may be speaking on they don't want to be a part of any government, or they don't want to be a part of any systems, or they just want to be free. And again, that simply means you're just going to be stateless. Will that be beneficial to you long term? That's for you to decide. But what we're doing is more so educating ourselves how to come together as a collective and exercise our rights as a people, regardless of belief, regardless of lifestyle, regardless of anything that would divide us, more so focusing on law. Okay. So this may not be for anyone who is anti-government, because we're not here to not be a government or to not establish a nation. What we're about is actually creating the system needed for that protection. So if you, for whatever reason, think you're better off alone, then this may not be for you, which again, you can stay, but I'm just saying that that's really not what we speak about. Okay, so getting back into the obligations, the obligation to protect requires states to protect individuals and groups against human rights abuse. The obligation to fulfillment means that states must take positive actions to facilitate the enjoyment of basic human rights. Knowing your rights in a system or government built for other people is pretty careless, right? That's how we've been operating our entire lives, and prior to that, other people have been doing. It's like your neighbor coming over and making suggestions on the color you should paint your room. Although you can take their opinion into consideration, you really don't have to. You understand? So this is what, excuse me, this is why movement like Black Lives Matter is so irrelevant to real progress. Because the truth is, you as an individual should not be speaking to governments. You need government. Governments are supposed to speak to each other. You understand? So as long as we continue to move a certain way, we're not going to see any progress. So it doesn't matter how many marches happen. It doesn't matter how many people cry or scream about it. You have to take a different approach. Okay. One moment. Where am I? Okay. That's my 3. This is where understanding your Indigenous rights as an Aboriginal person is important. Given the history, right, that we as a people endured within America, and that, again, when I say America, keep in mind, I'm always referring to the 57 states that make up America. Okay, I'm not just referring to the United States, which they like to put in the box for America, but if you research, America is actually made up of 57 states, and you can fact check me on that. Okay, so moving on. Given the history that we've endured, utilizing the UN Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous People to rebuild government structure is really the only way to protect ourselves, okay? And create a future that we can look forward to. That went quick. No, that's wrong. Is it time? Okay. Give me 1 second. So a key way to exercise your right to create a better future, like I said before, we as melanated people must utilize our rights to bring international human rights into play when it comes to protecting ourselves. What that means is we have to stop contracting, like I said before, with governments as individuals. We have to become more responsible by exercising our Indigenous rights as a group without discrimination on belief, lifestyle. And I mention these things because they are the primary areas that separate us, like I said before. You know, what you do in your personal life should be completely irrelevant to you politically when it comes to you showing up in society and how you will be protecting yourself and exercising your rights as a person. Okay, because again, part of human rights is you have the right to privacy. So what you do within your home is nobody's business. And that means no government, whether it's Indigenous or anything other, it's not the space where you're supposed to intrude. So example, someone asking you about your medical records, regardless if it's mandatory, it's actually a violation of your human rights. But how do you know that if you are not educated on what your rights are? This is why understanding your rights and having the proper institutions in place, which is something we are working on to develop, is so that we can know how to exercise. Because the thing about it is, as long as you do not have the proper representation and the proper education and knowledge, you're basically walking without rights. And the people who experience the most violations when it comes to human rights are people who do not have representation. And it basically comes back to thinking of it like, I don't want to say kids and parents, but the child that has absent parents during their childhood experience the worst type of treatment. That's just how it goes. So as long as you are alone, that's the room that unfortunately people are able to intrude on you with. So changing that is what will change our future. You understand? So we have to stop waiting for someone else to do the work. This is something that we all have to take accountability for. This is not something that no one is going to magically appear and change for us. We have the tools. Now it's time for us to utilize. And this is why, let me just go back one slide. And this is why I included the UN Declaration, Rights of Indigenous People, Article 5, is we have the right to maintain, strengthen, and pretty much execute our political, legal, economic, social, cultural institutions while retaining our right to participate fully if we choose in political, economic, social, cultural life of the state. So again, that means that we can either do our own thing as Indigenous people, at the same time still participate within society. And that is your right. Anyone telling you that you're not able to do that is in violation of your rights. And that's why we have to continue to make sure we are able to hold people who are committing these violations accountable, right? And that pretty much is it. I wanted this to be quick and simple because I feel like this is the only way we're able to have a discussion on what is it that we really need to do. And I think so many times we get caught up in so much information that it's like, where do I start? And the truth is, you start with yourself. You start with your people. That's where you start. No one is going to magically come and do this work for us. So this is why we are building the Xi-Amaru Republic. The end. Thank you guys. Anyone has any questions? Let me see the notes. Oh, it was quick and simple. And call message. Where did you just read? Oh, I can give me 1 second. And let me include the link so that you guys can have these because it's important to know where to go for information. You should always have access to, I just included the link to the United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous People. And another good one, I don't have it up here, but I will send you guys the links. That way you guys can go over the information. Where is it? Let's see. Welcome. Hey. Let's see here. So pretty much that concludes the meeting, but key things to take from this is you are in control of your destiny. We are in control of our destiny. We do not have to wait for anyone to come and free us. You know, that's why people I think they keep trying to make it this thing where you look outside of yourself like you have enemies, but the truth is you are your enemy. You are the only thing holding you hostage in the disrespect, anything that you feel, you shouldn't be tolerating. You are the person that should be changing that, and this is why understanding what we're doing is no one here is an expert. I think so many times we want someone to be this light and savior, but it takes everybody. It takes all of us to really change the future. And this is only a platform where we're saying, okay, we're here, so who's ready to start? Who's ready to move? Who's ready to build? And we're building. We're still a small nation, but the efforts and the structures that are going into place is something to definitely, I don't know how many people in here are actually tribal members. I know there were some and some who are in process and different stuff like that, but this is the time to really get serious about, are you going to continue living the life that you see everyone else live, or are you going to step into yourself? Because you hear everyone talking about, I'm Indigenous, and it's just a new hot topic. But the truth is, if you are Indigenous, then you're going to start exercising your rights. You're going to start moving as an Indigenous person, understanding what it means to be Indigenous, and understanding what it means to be Indigenous is understanding your rights. That's what it is. So if you are scared to exercise your rights as an Indigenous person, then you're not being Indigenous. If you're waiting on someone to come and give you the magic flag to be Indigenous, you are not Indigenous. You're not being Indigenous. Even when it comes to what we're doing, our process is not to turn anyone into Indigenous people. The process is simply to give you confirmation on who you already are. The issue is that you have people within the communities who are trying to sell nationality, who are trying to sell you identity. You can't buy identity. It's not something for sale. You have to know who you are. And this is about waking up and recognizing that you are who you are. This isn't something we're here to give you. So I think that's very important to talk about, because so many times we are searching, we're searching, but this is not the place to find anything. It all starts within you. So even when it comes to our process, we have, the screening, the enrollment process, it's only to confirm to Aboriginal people who they are on these lands. It's not for us to give them any type of Indigenous status. They're already Indigenous. You're already Indigenous if you are Aboriginal. You understand? It's just getting in alignment with community, your paperwork, and your allies. That's it. Let me see here. Go ahead. I see someone has their hand up.
This is me, John. I got a question.
Go ahead.
So being the fact that, from my understanding, we were the first ones here, and this is pretty much our land, and we are who we are. But when it comes to that and being tied into this so-called legal fiction with the government, how I don't have a profound understanding of how, like when you do file necessary paperwork to separate yourself from that, do they have some type of database or system or something that they correct your status in or something like that?
That's a great question, but no, the thing about it is how you contract on a daily basis is creating your relationships. We were not educated on the importance of business. I think the reality is, as Aboriginal people, we have to get out of the mindset that there's escaping from this matrix. I think the truth is we have to learn the rules of the game. We have to learn how it's played versus just trying to, I'm fed up, I want to leave. Where are you going? This is where you belong. So where are you going? The truth is, you have to understand that when it comes to governments, they are rules to all governments. And this is why we have to create rules for our governments. We have to develop our system so that when we contract with other states and governments, that they understand our rules. So you have rules for you have rules for citizens, you have rules for foreigners, you have rules for nationals. So there's different sections when it comes to certain people, and it all comes down to the way they contract. You understand? So changing how you contract is how you pretty much protect your identity. It's not about changing and becoming someone new. You're still going to be in the system, but you just want to make sure that when you are in the system, they know how to properly address you based off of who you say you are and how you do business. How you do business comes down to your paperwork. So just think about it. If someone from, I think I use this all the time. If someone comes from India and they tell you they're Indian, how do you confirm that? International law means that international law protects people to declare who they are. So saying who you are and the documentation that you present to people is what is the determining factor on who you are. No one can tell you who you are. And if they do, they are in violation of your rights. So if someone is trying to tell you, now again, if you're saying you're Indigenous, but you're always showing me a state ID, you're saying something, but according to my record, based on what you're presenting to me, you're just like everybody else that looks like you.
So you're basically you're showing their form of identification and things like that, saying that you're Indigenous. So one more question before I leave, real quick.
Go ahead.
Once you correct these contracts and you're standing in your status as an Indigenous Aboriginal individual, they are so corrupt, they still tread against you and your rights and try to treat you as though you still considered, quote unquote, this legal fiction. How do we deal with that?
We deal with that by becoming the responsible people, by putting the making sure that we have educated people in place to have these conversations with these officials, with these organizations, so that when it comes to you, they understand that you're not just another person. Because again, it's popular to say I'm Indigenous. Everybody's out here walking around Indigenous right now, but nation is something where you're operating with community. This is why the information from quote unquote sovereigns and Moors are so dangerous, is because it pushes that individual mindset where you're just going to have magic papers and now no one can touch you. But the reality is you need community. This is why what we're doing is more so about community, because I'm not here to tell you this is the only way to do it. There's many ways to go about certain procedures, but the truth is they have failed. Moving separate does not change anything. You can have all the paperwork you want, but if you do not have people, you have nothing.
Power in numbers.
That's it. So having your people is what's going to protect you, not no paper. Paper doesn't protect anyone. Anyone can have paper.
Correct.
No problem. Someone else has their hand up. Go ahead.
That was what I was going to address. When they choose to ignore all paperwork as well as any kind of verbal oration from you, the how do I want to politely put it, the slave patrollers, they will move to aggression with if you don't do what I say, this will escalate. And I've been in those situations. So I thank Brother Felder for going that way, in that direction. They ignore you. And then their gatekeepers will also, when you're attempting to stand your ground as an Indigenous person, when you're dealing with these different businesses, agencies, departments, whatever, they have their gatekeepers, and they will act like they don't know what you're talking about, or prefer to totally ignore you as if you're not even present. So my question though is, this is a public meeting. For the tribal meetings, are there discussions within that how to properly correct your status? Because the system still has us labeled colored, Negro, Black, African American, and allegedly there's some kind of trust attached to that. I don't even want to go all off into that. But if they have you in their system in some kind of way, because now we're in the era of DNA, where they have, the fingerprints and your mouth swabs and your blood and everything else, you can say, I'm not that individual or that entity or whatever. If they have your DNA, they're going to, or even a photo, they will use your biometrics on your, what looks like you. Because I've been in all these situations that I'm describing, I've already walked in those shoes. And so I am totally in agreement with, it's not just about paperwork. It is all about you. There's power in numbers. And until we start getting together as a community, and I know just looking at some of the phone numbers and different people, I don't think we're all in the same state. Will there be little groups of pockets of communities throughout for people who want to be a part of Xi-Amaru? And then when you're having the tribal meetings, you know, is there information on how to go about correcting the fiction and all that stuff, and then how to operate so we can actually start having our own commerce? Because even with community, you still have to have your own banking and commerce system, because you can get pulled back into those, what are those called, adhesion contracts, and all these various different ways that they have to pull you back into their system. And I yield.
Mm-hmm. Great points. The thing about it is, let me backtrack to where you were. What we're doing now is, I wouldn't say it's the first, we're not the first to ever do anything. You know, there's nothing new under the sun. But what we are working on here at, you know, with the Xi-Amaru Republic is now bringing people who have experiences together. The goal is for us to see where you went wrong. Where was the block? Because the truth is, experiences is what's going to lay the foundation on what we need to create. This is a system that's being built. This is not a built system. You understand? This is something where people are coming together, just like you, giving their input. And this is what it's about, is coming together in these meetings where we are going to start discussing the protocol, the procedure, the budget, because the thing about it, saying you're Indigenous and you're tax exempt is not just to say you're tax exempt. The whole point is you saying that I cannot pay. Again, I have no problems with you and your taxes, but I need to keep my resources so that I can build my nation. You understand? Everybody just wants to, and the biggest problem that people have is that they keep using or trying to use their system against them. You cannot win against a system that wasn't built for you. That's the problem.
Indeed.
The system was not built for you to beat it. You have to create your own system. This is where it comes back to us understanding that we have to become responsible with the development of what we're going to create. You cannot tell them, oh, this, and you cannot fight them with their paper. You understand? So until we come together and learn that we have to now, because again, contracts are made to be like there's different ways to address contracts, but what are you addressing if you're not a part of a nation? Where are you going? So you have to really bring yourself into what is it I am trying to accomplish? Because being free, you're not going to be quote unquote free. You do have to live. You do have to go to grocery stores. You do have to live in society. But now it's about, how do I live to be respected? And if anyone violates against that, who do I contact? How do I protect myself then? Because that's what it's going to come down to. It's not about getting them to just listen to you. No, it's about, okay, if they break the rule, then what happens? Because people are going to break rules all the time. But if you have nothing to check them, if you're not being responsible within your community and building the things that you need to make sure you have in place, then you're just a sitting duck. And this is where we're now talking about, how do we change what we've all been experiencing? And that starts with being responsible. I see, Sean, your hand was up first, and then Regina, you can go next.
Okay, real quick. Can you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I do totally agree with you about, we can't control or break anything that they create. In trust law, he who creates controls. So they created this whole system and they control it. I get that. So my question is this. When it comes to the standard form SF 181, and yes, we do have a right to self-identify, but why would that form be of importance? You get what I'm saying? If it's their paperwork.
That's the thing. Who's using that form?
Okay. Say no more.
Go ahead, Regina.
Hi, I'm not a member just yet, but I'm in the process of being a member. So my question is this. One, I know this is a public forum and supposed to go to the tribal forum soon. What is the structure? I know it's a new tribal, but what is the structure? I'm originally from South Carolina. I'm living in West Virginia. I have been doing research on the indigenous people down there. There's a whole bunch of land that was entrusted to indigenous people, but due to the 1800s of the race transition of identifying what race you was, a lot of them had to switch over to that. So I guess what I'm saying that to ask you this, what is the actual structure of what we're doing in this organization? And like the lady said earlier, like when she's in certain situation, are there some kind of department that she has to go through to go and talk to handle certain situations? Even with finance and stuff, do we have any outline structure of everything? So we can say, oh, you do this, or if you get in trouble, you could say, well, then you need to reach to my council X, Y, and Z, and they have to call that person prior to doing everything else. Do you have any structure like that? That's my question.
That's a great one. We didn't put anything in place. This is the part where we have to be honest. Who are going to be those people that we call? We want people to call, but we don't want to be the people that get calls. The reality about where we're at is everybody wants somebody to lean on, but don't want to be the person to be leaned on. What I'm saying is that this is a new nation. We just declared independence in December of last year. What do you think we would have built by then? You have people on the internet telling you lies and promising you these quick, just do this and it'll be perfect. And the reality is that that's not true. This is work. This is coming together and really building a nation. We have meetings coming up next month about where we're at, what we need to structure. There's a lot of work that needs to be done for us to have those support systems that we desire and crave. But it starts with, again, where's the fund coming from? How are we going to just get people to volunteer? No one's going to volunteer. People need to eat. So we have to start coming together to discuss budgets. How are we going to use funds? You understand? So this is the groundwork right now. This is the foundation where it's not about me. It's about my kids. It's about someone else. Because the truth is, the people who started never see the end. And that's the thing. Everybody wants the end result. I'm not doing this for me. I'm doing this because I have little ones who one day, I don't want them to go through what we currently experience.
Okay, I understand. I mean, I was just saying, I wanted to know where we are.
Yeah. And that's
right now. And understanding that you at the beginning, then I understand where it needs to go, as far as the structure and how it looks and stuff like that.
And those are great points that you made too, that we definitely need to cover when it comes to tribal meeting. This is why it's so important for those who are a part of the nation or are in the process is please attend meetings, because I don't know it all. I'm not here, and I really want that to be understood, is I'm not here to be the face of anything. This is just so that we all can come together and pour into this thing. This thing is not for one person. This is for all of us to contribute so that we can protect our future. So your feedback is very important, but we need to start coming with, hey, this isn't here. How do we get this in place? Okay, then if we're going to need someone on standby and we're going to need someone after hours, how much is that going to cost for the budget? How much? Those are the conversations we need to start getting to, versus if they stop us, then what? We need to say, okay, well, we know they're going to stop somebody. How soon can we get someone in place? How soon can we make sure that we have these things covered? So this is why getting involved is so important. Becoming a part of the nation is so important because, again, it's all about jurisdiction. We're building a jurisdiction where we are able to legally, lawfully exercise our rights together. But we can't do that if we're not moving in sync. You understand? So that's why the process is not just the process. The process is there so that we can get through this, and then the work begins after.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I understand.
I know, I feel some type of way because I feel like I always have to be the deliverer of this type of news, but it's just the reality. And the thing, one moment, Sean, is that you have so many people on the internet promising these beautiful endings where they know they have no support, no system. And this is why, I stepped up to this, because I realized not people are going to keep lying to us. They're going to keep telling us. And then guess what? When you're actually in the jam, no one's there.
Yeah.
No one's
and
there.
like I said, I understand. And the biggest thing that I'm seeing is because you knew it has to be like some type of structure. And that's why I was asking what was the structure. But knowing that the structure needs to be made, then that works out. Okay. Thank you for answering.
People keep thinking that we as people can't handle the truth. We're not about to build a nation on lies. Our goal is to remain truthful and open to where we're at. The thing is, all these other nations, they're built on lies. And that's why they're falling. That's why they don't stand, is because they're all structured from lies. They think the people can't handle it. It's not the people. It's just that when you don't know, people can manipulate you. I can sit here and tell you, yeah. And then when you're faced with the challenge, oh, no. That's because people don't want to be held accountable. People want the easy way because they know, one, they feel like everyone needs to be babied. But we're here because we're grown adults. We can handle the truth. We're here because we want to know what we can do. And Sean, you have your hand up. Go ahead. We're going to finish up in about 10 minutes, so go ahead.
Real quick, I want to say that I greatly, greatly, greatly appreciate what you're doing. And I want to be a part of the nation. And also as well, I know you have a lot of pressure on you with people having to ask you all these different questions and you have to try to answer them to the best of your knowledge. I get that. I understand. Much respect. But real quick, besides the Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous People, is there something or somewhere else that we can go to really read about, like just say rules to the game or to their game about Indigenous people and things like that, besides the Declaration?
Great question. And you know what I like to tell people, you want my honest opinion about research, is that it's someone else's opinion. You have to create. We have to create. We have to get out of the mind of wanting to consume. You have to tell people who you are. You have to teach people how you operate. Stop waiting for their rules. This is where we're at, is understanding our power, understanding we do not need to keep searching, confirm. You don't need their permission. You don't need anyone's permission. You need to decide that you're either going to be this and create this, because again, the rules is the rules. Your rights is your rules. What you do with them is up to you. You have the right to tell people how Indigenous you are by creating what it means to be an Aboriginal of the Xi-Amaru Republic. That's your rule. You're writing the rule book. There's no rule books to this. So we have to, again, understand we are the people with the power. There's no magic potion out here. No one has created. I ain't write it. We all are responsible to write this history. It doesn't exist the way we want it. That's why we have to do it.
You turn the light on. Much appreciation.
Go ahead, Gabrielle. I see someone else here. Okay, she put down.
Oh, hi. Yeah, I'm kind of feel like I'm straggling because I'm not sure where we are with everything. So I'm just logging on because I didn't have access, and I'm not sure why I'm not getting the emails or the links to the meetings because I missed the last one also.
Yeah, we're definitely gonna have to check that out because you definitely told me that before too. Because we be sending, especially you're always signing up, so you always get you're supposed to get notified. But okay, we'll definitely check that out to see. If anything, then we'll text you the information, whatever needs to be done. But basically, we're just going over understanding our power as a people, as people. And that's the thing, our experience, although it tried, it was there to destroy us, it made us great. We have a beautiful foundation to start with. It's literally our coloring book. What are we going to color? What are we going to paint? Because again, you have to understand, when it comes to self-determination, they cannot do it for you. They understand that. So there's no magic person coming our way. That's where it comes down to understanding that we, as the people who went through it, have to now rebuild it. That's it. If there's nothing, okay, one more.
So
Go
how
ahead.
do we get like these entities to not violate you? Like, I'm still have not been able to successfully even open up a bank account here in California with my business that I created through Indigenous. I mean, where my original stuff that I started and recreated with you. And like, if you're stopped by the police or things that I've endured over the years. And I know you everybody don't know my story and what's been going on, but like, how do we now get together so that we know how to remedy? Like, literally, we're not really supposed to contract with lawyers, but literally my brother died in a nursing home for abuse and neglect, and that's documented and things like that. And as an Indigenous person, like, how do we now still move in the public and the private? And I'm kind of looking more on, I have a lot of situations going on that I need, protection on.
The thing about it is, it's not about you don't contract with lawyers. See, that's where you have to understand that the type of people we've all been listening to, they're just figuring it out. They're winging it. Okay. We need lawyers. We need lawyers to join our nations. We need people who have different backgrounds and experiences in healthcare, in different areas. This is not a nation where we're coming together and just hoping. No, we need more people. We need people who are in different fields of life that can be voices, because the thing about it is, there's no magic way to get this done. There's no snap. You need people who are educated on both sides. And then utilizing their Indigenous rights to execute. So maybe one day we might have to sponsor some kids to go to law school. That's not, get out of this public-private thing that you hear people on the internet telling you, just don't talk to this one. No, if you know someone this is where the problem lies, is that you currently have people that look like us who are not in tune with who they are, and then you get misrepresented. This is about people coming together with same or similar structures and values and morals, who want to operate in their proper status, and then utilizing that within society. This is not about you separating from society. You have to learn how to live within society. There's no escaping this. I mean, again, if somebody wants to escape, that's their thing, but it's just not the route that I don't see it beneficial to me and my future. But what I do want is to make sure that the people that are connected to me, are respected when we are showing up. So to answer your questions, you need a better bank teller. You need a bank teller who is Indigenous to understand what you're going through. This is something that we have to understand, that no one else is going to do it for us. So educating people, working towards building and advocating for our rights is really how we're going to see change. It sucks that you're dealing with people who are not educated. That's the problem. People think that because they're not getting the result that they're looking for, it's because they're doing something wrong. Doesn't mean you're doing something wrong. It just means that you're dealing with people who are not educated to serve you. So then how do we create institutions where we have our banks? This is where you have to take it. Okay, where do I get, and we actually have someone in the nation who is working on different banking connections between Africa here and other places. So showing up and more so coming to the place of being the solution and finding, instead of looking at your issues as a you problem, how do I make sure that this doesn't happen to other people? We have to become selfless. We have to stop focusing on ourselves because that's where they want us. As long as you think about yourself, you're going to always hit a wall. I came to these conclusions because of y'all. I didn't come to this because of me. You have to see your people. You have to see your future to think beyond yourself to get an answer. That's just how it works. The founding fathers of the United States, how many it was? Do you think if they were thinking about the 13 of them, or I think it was 13 or whoever was there, do you think they would have created what they created? They saw that they wanted something more for their people, regardless of how they went about it. They created it, but they believed in themselves. Every system is built off of the belief of the people. That's it. There's no magic foreign this or this institution is that and da da da. As long as you believe in it, it's real. You can call it fiction all you want. It's real. That's it. So you calling what do you think a bunch of people on the internet calling the United States fiction and a corporation is going to do to them? Nothing. Their people still believe in it. We believe in them. So it's like, what are you talking about? Now it's time to believe in you. Believe in what you can do, what you can change, what you can create. Because that's all it is.
So how do we as a group enforce that? Because that's the reason for us going together, is for us all together to now go to these corporations, these companies to respect our standing. Because I have all these sealed documents that they're looking at like, oh, well, we don't recognize you. So are we being recognized in certain places and not other places? Or how do we work together with recognize?
Yeah, and that's where we have to continue. Well, the structure, we have to finish the structure that we have in place. We have to also show up to start having sit downs with our county officials. There's so many things that we have to take the steps in, because if you're not making connections and building relationships, then you're not gonna function. So until it's like we keep trying to jump from one step to the other because this is inconvenient, but there's no skipping to this. We have to build a nation, then we start showing up to speak with different officials in the states, because now we have the formal representation, because we selected our own officials so that our officials can go speak to their officials and have these conversations. We keep trying to speak to people where we don't have the structure in place to speak to people. Governments only speak to governments. You understand? So
Correct.
we have to start switching.
Sure.
We have to start switching how we're handling business. This is commerce. This is nothing new. This is just something that we keep thinking that you're not gonna get it done. You have to go to the head. But how do you go to the head? Is putting the right people in place. If you know someone who may be a good fit for a position, there's gonna be a lot of opening for different things. But if you're thinking about you getting served and you not serving your community, then this is not gonna work. Because at this point, we all need to be of service. We all need to show up to get things done, and we all need to participate in the growth, because right now we have to come up with a budget for, well, again, I don't want to be talking about tribal affairs, but there's different things that we have to, again, show up to meetings. I understand, sometimes it may not be convenient on the time, you may have to be at work, but what's more important to you will be determined by what you take priority in. We cannot, and this is why I don't even like recording music, videos, is because I feel like it makes us lazy. It makes us not show up. It makes us just watch it later. This is why we don't do YouTube, because it makes people just be entertained. If we want to change, we have to change. We have to change how we do stuff. You understand? So showing up, having these discussions, creating an execution plan is the only way we're going to see change. And if we hit a wall, we hit a wall, but then we know we have to do something else.
Well, I know I'm not there in Houston, and really I'm considering moving back to Houston. I mean,
Come
actually,
on
because really it's like, it's really going to take us all working together and standing on it and showing up together. It's not about me for myself. That's why I created the whole community and the garden and what I was trying to establish here in Oakland.
Whatever you have to do, and that's what I said, you have a beautiful cause, and the thing about it, especially when you're called, is you're going to get those bumps. I think sometimes we get discouraged, but we have to remember that this is something that we're doing for when we're not even going to be here.
Yeah, I'm doing this for my grandchildren, because I don't want them to have to, go through a lot of the things that I've experienced.
And we're going to make the change. We're going to make the thing about it is the world keeps trying to tune us into, you can't change anything. And that's not true. We have all the power to create. We have it. We just have to use it, and like I said, it starts with us coming together. We're going to start having meetings on a constant, again, if you're not an official member, to start and become a part of our nation, the first step is screening. Get that out the way. Once that is out the way, you're able to participate in our nation. The only difference is if you want to hold position, or if you want to be able to operate within society using your paperwork, then that's when you become an official member. But it's literally just $50 to get involved, and then see if you want to go the next step. But you can be an official member all your life if you want. There's no rush into this. But the beauty about where we're at is this is you making a decision. This is you making an impact. This is you using your voice. If you've had certain experiences and you're not pleased with them, how do you bring that to your nation? And then we all come together and build, okay, this is a problem. And where are we seeing these problems? So now, again, but we're not going to, pretty words and paperwork is just only the first step. We have to prioritize coming together, working together, volunteering our time to build this thing, because there's no one else is going to do it. No one else is going to do it. We have to do it. And I'm not going to lie. I was on the side where I was like, I just want to join a nation, join my tax exemptions, and y'all got everything over there. But no, the universe said, no, this is y'all. I'm like, okay. So this is us. And we have to decide if we're going to continue to live the life we've always lived or press into the future. Those are the only two options. There's no guarantee. That's another thing too. We have these hopes and these dreams of these guarantees of, it'll pay out. No, you got to sweat for it. I'm not here to sugarcoat and tell you it's going to be easy or smooth. Like, we might have to talk to a couple officials, couple different people, but this is, how bad do you want it? How much do you want to change the future for yourself and the people connected to you? So if you're scared of getting kicked down and knocked down, then this might not be the place for you, because We're not here to sell you that sovereignty and you just go about your day and show your paperwork. And no, this is, you ready to talk to these police officers? You ready to talk to this person who's violating another tribal member? This is you learning, educating yourself so that you can be an asset to your nation. That's the only way you're going to have your back and have someone else's back. Because the thing about it is we all need covering. We all need people in place. We need the proper officials. We need, like I said, everybody, most people call me. I ain't got nobody to call right now. I need somebody to call. Okay, so y'all need to, let's do this thing for
We
real.
sure do. I agree with that. You're right. We all, I be feeling the same way. Like you calling on me, who? I don't have nobody to call. But
But it's the truth. We all need to decide that we are going to be the strength of our nation. This is something that we all have to pick up and carry. This is not something that is going to be, here you go, hand it to us. No, this is, if we saying we're Indigenous, then we got to build the nation to show it. You understand? We can't just be out here talking about it. That's why we had to left the other thing, because people just want to talk about it. We're going to be Indigenous. We have our rights in place that gives us the room to build, create, tell us what we need to do and how we can do it, the way we can do it, and then write our rules. Let them read our rules. Let them read how we move. Hey, if you want to learn about how we do business, go to such and such on our X, Y, and Z website. If you want to learn how you should talk to me, go to such and such. This is how I operate based on my culture, based on how me and the people I'm connected to move. So here you go. That's it. You keep reading their paperwork. Someone asked me, and I'm going to close out because I'm going to be late for this appointment. But someone asked me the other day, are you guys recognized? Do you get, like, did you guys get something from the federal government? Blah, 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 blah. Who gave the federal government their recognition?
mm-hmm.
They keep playing mind games on us, and y'all just, and we keep saying, oh yeah, it's real. It's real because you believe it. And it's okay. The thing about it is we don't have to keep getting frustrated. We do not have to keep getting upset with them. They created their system. And the thing about it is respect the work. You have to respect the work. They put in a lot of work to sell this story to us. Now we got to put in some work. It's a story. It's work. They put in years of work, and you're trying to compete against years of work. It's without putting in any. You cannot compete with something you just started. So at the same time, don't be upset that they have 1 million, I don't know how many officers in place that we cannot have a conversation with to educate all of them. It's okay. You start work. We're working with what we have. We're working with what we have. And we have to keep working with what we have, because only then we're going to keep educating people, and more people are coming. Stop believing that there's not enough people. People are waking up. People are changing. People are waking up. People are waking up. And that's what it's all about. Okay. So again, if you are a tribal member, the tribal meeting will be, when is the tribal meeting? Is anyone in here who knows when the next tribal meeting is? I think it's the 6th. Is it the 6th, y'all? I think it's the 6th. It's going to be on the
6th.
Okay.
It's the 6th.
So I'll see you guys then, but we're going to try to have more work on giving more platforms to educate, have conversations. But when it comes to our tribal meetings, we need to start coming in there with, okay, this is where we're at. Because right now, we have to still structure our constitution. We still need a flag. There's still paperwork side of things that we need to structure. There's still, different positions that we need to get in place. So there's a lot of work to do on that side. But we will have public meetings for educational purposes mostly. But when it comes to tribal affairs, let's make sure next time in the future we are having those conversations among tribal members, whether official or unofficial, because again, everything is not for the public. Okay. Well, it was a pleasure, you guys. I hope you guys got something from this. I'll keep you guys posted when we do have another one. If you're not a tribal member, feel free to complete a screening. And if you have questions, personal questions, you can contact us to have a conversation about that. But for those who are members, I'll see you guys on the 6th. And the rest of y'all have a good rest of your day. Okay.